repressed and recovered memories. This woman, Eileen Franklin, remembered her father's raping and murdering her young friend 20 years earlier. Her father was sent to prison. There were stories similar to the one told by Marilyn Vandiver, who was Miss America in 1958. Ms. Vandiver says she now remembers being abused by her father when she was a child. Psychiatrist Lenore Terr, author of Unchained Memories, is often called as an expert witness on the subject of repressed memory.
Marilyn used a defense called splitting. She said that all the bad things, this is what she said to herself, that all the bad things that were happening had happened to the nighttime child. And that all these wonderful honors and awards and everything were happening to the day child. And the day child didn't know what the night child was going through. And she was able to split herself off into two participants in her life, one of whom knew and the other didn't.
After a flurry of news about recovered memories of childhood abuse, we started seeing a backlash against so-called false memories, or people's remembering things which never happened. This man, Stephen Cook, recanted and dropped his molestation lawsuit against Cardinal Joseph Bernardin.
Based on information I have learned since filing the lawsuit, I now realize that the memories which arose during and after the hypnosis are unreliable.
Deo gratias.
So what's true and what's false?
This is a subject which has polarized even the mental health community, and you are said to have taken sort of an even-handed approach.
In my book, I have 1 case of false memory and 6 cases of true memory, and I think that probably the 1 case of false memory is too much of a proportion of the book, these are a drop in the bucket compared to the number of people who are experiencing terrible suffering as children.
Do you think it's possible that some therapists are having a suggestive effect on their patients, actually planting some memories?
I have not run into a patient who I've had to debrief from having some kind of a memory implanted, but I have to believe that there must be a few therapists out there who didn't mean to but are doing this. I don't think they're an evil conspiracy of therapists.
The American Psychiatric Association became concerned about all the public debate over memories of abuse. So concerned that it issued a several-page statement, and on the first page it says, "We are especially concerned that the public confusion and dismay over this issue and the possibility of false accusations not discredit the reports of patients who have indeed been traumatized by actual previous abuse."
Now, you know, there are some cases that make no sense. They have gotten a lot of publicity and they don't make a lot of sense. But most of these cases are true, bona fide cases of people who have gone through terrible experiences as children.
Do you think it's harder these days for abuse victims to be taken seriously because of all of the so-called false memory publicity?
I think that the false memory publicity has done a lot of harm to true and bona fide victims, and I feel very sorry about that. I wish there were something that I could do. I think that the amount of suffering in children is almost unbelievable. It can go up to infinity.
What would you say to someone who says it's ludicrous to suggest that a child could be abused and not remember it?
Well, I would say that was good common sense, but it isn't true. You know, sometimes common sense doesn't work, and in psychiatry we have found that kids who have repeated abuses have more tendency to forget than kids who don't. And I once worked with a little boy who was 9 years old, who for 2 years had been just beaten silly by his stepdad.
Dr. Terr explains how one 9-year-old boy was able to repress memories of abuse.
And he said, well, it's easy. He said, I just picture myself at a picnic, and I picture myself by Mommy. And after a while, I just don't feel no pain. And then he said that after a while, he stopped the picnic. He didn't have to think of the picnic. He just had to think of himself by Mommy. And he didn't feel any pain. And then he said to me, and after a while, I didn't have to think of Mommy at all. I just felt nothing. So that you could see that he had put himself into another state of consciousness, that he had removed himself by visualization and imagery, and that he had entered another plane where he didn't feel pain.
Just shut down.
He just shut down. Now, why shouldn't he forget? When he teaches himself and trains himself to self-hypnotize, which that is, why shouldn't he then forget? There's probably not very much that's perceived when you're in a hypnotic state like that. You probably don't even register that much. And the chances of his remembering when he's 35 years old a whole bunch of abuses, I don't think are that great. He may remember some snips that he's forgotten, but he's not going to get the whole picture. I mean, it's not going to run like a videotape. It's not going to, there are no movies of memory. But he may get a picture or two or a shard or two. One of the problems with therapists is that they may try to supply the glue between these shards. They shouldn't. We have to live with our shards of memory. Memory doesn't always come out like a whole story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Sometimes it's just a piece. And we can live with those. And we can help patients with those. They don't have to get the whole memory to be helped.
So where do we stand? Some recovered memories are false. Details, especially, can be false, according to Dr. Terr. But the big picture of the memory, the gist of the memory of abuse, she says, should be taken seriously. For the 700 Club, I'm David Sisson.
Know how much conspiracy there is in the U.S. Maybe it's economics. Who knows what it is? I'm not even sure. But I do know it's obvious that Martin Luther King was murdered by conspiracy. Malcolm X.